Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Friday edition, the weekend Wanderlust edition of our podcast, KISS.
Keep it simple, sister.
I'm Samantha.
And I'm Diana.
And we are going to share with you the concept going back to Tuesday's podcast, which was about manifestation. And we're going to remind y'all a little bit about what that was about, give you a little bit of clue about the energy, how you go about doing this, some ideas, and then we will share with you what we are hoping to have y'all take up doing this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's one of the most fun metaphysical art projects I have had since I started this. And it's really easy to do. So it's fun.
Fantastic. So when we were talking on Tuesday, we shared some instances of manifestation that we experienced, and even our flip sides, both of our flip sides, they referred to, not just seeing the positive side of things, but, that's also an aspect of manifestation. So we had some stories, and we got into a little bit discussing the energy, how you go about manifesting.
Well, and that's what it's all about the energy, but I think in culture now, like just the common man's thought about manifesting, there's no real mention of energy and its importance. So I think that's
and people don't focus on the feelings aspect either.
Yes, exactly.
I go back to like the classic vision boards, and there's nothing wrong with vision boards. But it's just that if you cut out a picture and you put it in front of you, and that's as far as you go with it, if you don't train yourself on the other aspects, you're going to find a roadblock. You're going to be disappointed, basically, because we talked about the reticular activating system, how that puts things, top of mind. So, you create a vision board and you see the things on the vision board, and that puts it top of mind. But if you are impatient, if you're the kind of person who doesn't feel into it, if you're not practiced at this stuff, what tends to happen is that you see what's up there. Maybe it's a house with a white picket fence, or a really cool outfit, or a vacation. And you sit there and go, well, when is this going to happen? When am I going to have that? Why isn't this working? And as you look at it longingly, all you're doing, we talked about how all the universe picks up on is what you're focused on. So instead of focused on, oh my God, the feeling of that house, that would be so lovely. Instead, you're like, well, why don't I have it? Why isn't this working? And that's what you put out there instead.
Well, and also the how. Like, I think we're so used to tuning into, I don't know how in the world that could possibly happen for me.
Yes.
It's none of our business. The how is none of our business.
And the timing, because you have no idea what has to, like you might look at it like, I really want this house. This house would be so cool. And then all of a sudden, the place you're staying in, like the rent goes up suddenly. And all of a sudden you're bitching about the rent, but you're not focused on the cooperative components that are bringing about leading you to this house. And so you have to understand there's processes.
Right. And let me just tell a quick story about my house that I manifested, where I'm not right now, but I will be. And we were supposed to build a house in the neighborhood where we live. And because of COVID, everything got slowed down. And we were in a 3rd-story apartment. We had 2 dogs. It was crazy. Blah, 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 blah. So we were very frustrated with that. But all I kept thinking was, this is my dream house. This is what I want. This is how I'm going to feel when I'm in this dream house. It's so fantastic, because my dream is that my kitchen is this, and my bathroom is this, and my this and this and this and this and that. And then all of a sudden, my best friend lived in that neighborhood, and her next door neighbor got an unexpected offer to move somewhere else and needed to sell her house immediately. And we bought the house. and it was perfect. And it was exactly what I had imagined and dreamed of and whatever. Like it was better than I ever could have imagined.
And you didn't have to go through building.
Exactly. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, we're never going to have this dream house. It's taking so long. Why is this happening? Well, why it happened was this house was so much better on a beautiful flat lot. Our lot would have been like dive off the back of precipice kind of thing.
Yeah, wow.
So you never know why it's going to happen, and you never know how what you're dreaming of and feeling into is going to present itself, because it's this or something better. Like what I imagined wasn't nearly as good as what I got, which is so exciting.
Okay, I'm going to highlight that. This or something better. And
Mhm.
that is
Because you don't know
so
what you don't know.
exactly. It's so important. And so when Diana first introduced that concept to me, this or something better, I was going to Disney. My son and I were going to go um, hang out with my daughter and her boyfriend down at Disney. And I had gotten us rooms, well, rooms for my son and myself. And they were at the very far back, the poor section, whatever, far away from, what is the Skyway? What do you call that? The Sky Tram thing.
Yeah.
And it was in this one section, and my daughter was staying in the other section. But when I had looked at the prices, it was too expensive for me to stay there. But so I put my reservations up, and like Diana told me to do, I put this or something better. And I just kept that in mind. What are the possibilities? What is a great question to ask? Open ended. What are the possibilities this is going to happen? This or something better. And then just on a whim, it was about a week before we're supposed to go down there. I called to ask because my mom kept debating whether she was going to come with us. And so I called to ask them about, can we get a room that's closer to the Skytram? Because I think I'm going to have my mother with me, and she's older, and she, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, those are all family rooms. There is nothing closer. And she goes, but I could put you over here where my daughter was staying. And I was like, well, that was kind of expensive. She goes, well, let me check. And she goes, because our rates do change. Well, it turns out that she was able to put us in a room that was even closer to the Skytram. It was even better than what my daughter had, and it was at a lower rate. And I was like, yes.
This or something better. And you don't even know what the better might be.
Yep. So you got to just, the how and the why have got to, and that's what we sit there, people say, well, you got to know your why, do you know that? You got to know your why. Why are you doing this project? Why are you doing that? And for me, the why, if you're going to have a why, it's because it feels good, because
Well,
it
and
makes me sing.
I do the same thing. What will make my heart sing? What will make me joyous?
Mhm.
My why is because I want to feel good and happy.
Exactly. And so the how, like you said, none of your damn business.
Right.
Yep. Get that out of your head, because that will lock you up. It'll stop things so fast.
Well, it stops things so fast, and it also constricts you into this little box where you don't know. Like, I would never have gotten this dream home that
Hmm.
was so much better than what I even imagined, and what we could have afforded if we were still building the house on the other lot. You just don't know.
Well, and the contrivances that the universe, because you have to understand, it's not just this thing coming to you directly. There are, there is this whole path. Like you can always look back and say, wow, if I hadn't missed my bus, and if it hadn't started to rain, I wouldn't have been stuck under this, portico, whatever, with this individual who ends up becoming my best friend or my lover or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like you can always look back and see it, but
Right.
and it's so much fun, and it's such a neat story. So how boring would it be if you said, I want this, and then it shows up? You know, life
Right.
would be,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so woo woo alert. I don't know if I need to keep saying that, but
I
anyway,
like that woo woo alert. And woo woo just, I mean, like,
woo woo's true.
well, and woo woo were Indians, right? Or Native Americans. It was a group of Native Americans
You looked it up.
and spiritual. Yes. And that's where the words woo woo came from. It was the name of something, but it's more like metaphysical thing, thinking in terms of spirituality and energy and all of that. So
So when we are not in this 3D experience, we are energy, we are spirit. And as energy, we can create what it is that we want to create. I know this because I'm a medium and I've spoken with loved ones who've crossed over for my clients, and they have described what they're doing, how they're creating it. Like it's very, very fascinating. And so, here, if it, we come here to have that experience of the three dimensions of time and space. It's we get to have all of this going on. So it's part of the it could be the agony or the sweetness or the fun journey of something, taking a bit to come to you and how it comes to you. And so the journey, when they say it's not the destination, it's the journey, it
yeah.
really is the journey, because the destination can happen like that. And all the great, like, the Bashar, if you follow Bashar, who is a channeled entity by Daryl Anka, he teaches, everything can happen in a split second, miraculous things can happen right off the bat, because that's the nature of who we are. But in this dimension, it would be boring. We come here for that excitement. So anyway,
That's exciting.
back
And
to
and woo woo, and I love it. So I think we need to, because we have to remember that this weekend Wanderlust is a little shorter, and
yeah.
being short and sweet is kind of hard for us. So that sometimes. But what we want to talk about is our activity.
Well, the different way, let's maybe mention the different ways first
Oh, okay.
that
Yes.
you can do manifestation.
So basically it's focus. It's, focusing on what you want to happen, what you want to have, what you want to do, what you want. And Samantha mentioned vision boards were one way. Um, I
Which can
have a
be really
vision,
fun and crafty.
yes, and I have a vision board app on my phone, which we will link and also put in the Facebook group. And basically you put pictures on there, and you can even add music. And so basically what it does is it really, really fast goes through all the pictures, and your subconscious picks it up. So it's speaking directly to your subconscious. But all of these other things also are, and they're just like a little tickler, a little nudge, a little, every so often do whatever. So one of the ways that I worked on my manifestations is I have an expo marker, a wipe off marker, and I write things on my mirror in the bathroom.
Oh, I
So
like
when I'm brushing my teeth,
that.
I'm seeing that thing that I want to focus on, and then I'm feeling it and whatever. So and when I
I
was a
like that.
teacher, I used to tell people, like when parents were trying to help their kids learn their multiplication facts, if you stick them places where the kids look. So I said, put it on the mirror while they're brushing their teeth, put it on the refrigerator door, put it on the back of the toilet seat, put it, wherever your kids' focus goes, on the side of the TV when there's a commercial, on their video game, on whatever, so
Mhm.
that it's just over and over and over and over and over and over until you kind of internalize it. So that's where I got that from.
I like
Um,
that.
yeah. And so I do it either with the expo marker or post-it notes, or whatever kind of works for you. But
Mhm.
you want to think about, where am I doing something that's kind of mindless, that if I see this, my subconscious can pick up on it.
Yeah, because you don't want it to be something where you grab so a hold of and you get so invested in, because then you sit there and start going, oh my God, how is this going to happen? I'm like, it's just a default for us to try to figure out
Yeah. Yeah.
how things are going to occur.
So,
Especially,
and if you,
well, especially us as women,
right.
because we are the ultimate problem solvers, and we can do so many different things while also problem solving. And so it's a very sneaky thing, I think, for us.
Yes. Well, and another place is the door as you go out to your garage or your front door, however you get in or out of your house, put it there, put it wherever. So that's some of the stuff that I do. Are there other
Well, and there's,
strategy you use?
well, so there's focus wheels,
Yes, which
Abraham
I want
Hicks
us to do a whole, I would like us to do a whole podcast on.
on focus wheels. Okay, so there's,
Yeah.
because that can be used for a lot of different things. There's focus wheels. Um, I think for me, a lot of times I like to, I'm a very tactily oriented person. So I really like to, like I wanted a horse so badly when I was a kid. And anything I could do to get around horses, to feel them, to feel the tack, to like I would beg my parents to go into a country western store just so I could hold, the reins
Well,
and
and that's that whole thing, like the smell of the car and all that, like
Mhm.
all of that, it's getting to all of your senses.
Yep. So for me, I'm very sensory oriented. So just having the picture, and because I'm ADD, and I say that and I don't mean to, I'm not labeling, it's just this is how my brain works. And
Right.
so for me, seeing a picture, it tends to numb me very quickly. I forget. And so that's why for me, actually physically feeling helps to bring on the sensory input. I have a great imagination. So going in and imagine it, walking through, feeling it, I just have to stop it before I start getting to the how. And another thing I noticed is that I have to be really careful because like I remember thinking, well, I want this house. There's this house I really want. And then I started I was seeing myself there, but then I started to complicate it. Like, well, where would I put this and where would I put that? Like you can't go there. You
No.
have to just go with the feeling
Take
of,
general with the feeling of.
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure there's other things you can do too. But let's go ahead and get into
Well,
the
and I would love it
activity.
if people put some in the Facebook group, if there's things that you do
Yeah,
or have read about or know about or whatever.
please do.
And yeah, so
And
that
feel
that
free to
will help.
comment below.
Well, and just to go back to my teaching background a little bit, when Samantha was saying that she's tactile, that's kinesthetic learning. And a
Oh,
lot of kids, that's the best way for them to learn. So the ones that like to build or make a model or whatever, and then there's auditory where you, and it's how you remember things. So you're a
mhm.
kinesthetic learner, so that's how you remember things, that's how you learn and remember. If you're an auditory learner, like if you could put something into a song and sing it, that's how you remember. Or if
Or
you hear it.
so I was just thinking when you say auditory, an example of using auditory for that would be like listening, like say you want to go to have a vacation at a beach
Right,
location.
listening to the
So play
waves.
the waves and just imagine it in your mind, but just
Exactly.
listen. Yeah.
And then visual learners are the ones that that picture will give them the feeling. They get it from the words or the list or the whatever. And a lot of us have an aspect of all three of those things,
Mhm.
but there's one that's stronger. And for you and so many people with ADD and so many creative, sensitive people,
Mhm.
kinesthetic is their learning form of choice.
So I have
And
to say, when Diana and I became buddies, the best thing was she really began to like, first she made it okay that I think the way that I do, that I operate the way I do. I'd never had someone, I was like, God, why weren't you my teacher in school? Because there, I was always treated like, well, you're just a C or D student, and they'd pass me off. And yet I had a bright imagination and hey, I was smart enough to learn how to do web design and all kinds of other stuff.
and SAT words out that you know what.
I was no dummy.
Yeah.
But to be an adult and to have someone recognize this, and actually explain, because I love to know how things work. And, so Diana's just like, well, this is why you do this. And I'm like, oh, like a whole part, just lights up in my head. And I'm like, wow. So if your brain works differently from the way that you were taught in school, it's you write things down, it's a visual and it can be auditory too. But if you miss a class, you're screwed kind of thing. My daughter was auditory.
Yeah.
But if you're more like how I am with the kinesthetic, that's where like Montessori would have been super helpful.
Right.
But if you're kinesthetic, then you know, go out there and find, there's so much information out there that explains how you operate. And even though you found a way to do the stuff you do, I know this is an aside, sorry, but even though you found a way to do the things that you've done, to understand why you do what you do is like so fulfilling. It's just so cool. So anyway, we're going to get back to, those were the
Yes.
3 types of
So
learning.
yeah, well, and it really does kind of build into your manifestation journey too. Like the way you learn and the what you're comfortable with is the strategy you need to use or the thing that you want to do because it's going to be fun for you.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. So my favorite thing is a manifestation box. And I learned this from Esther Hicks. And I'm not at my house where you can see it, but I have a box that says what is in this box is. And so I went to Home Goods and found this box for my daughter because this is her signature color. She likes this. And it has like the little magnetic flappy thing. But you can use any box, anything you want. I like it pretty with the little flap. But what we're going to do is she has a cricket and she's going to put whatever is in this box is and just put the cricket in and make it look pretty. But also because I'm not at home to show you mine, I found a pretty shoe box. You could use a shoe box. You can use, you know, anything. If you've got a nice little wooden box like back here, she's got, this is her Fearless box.
Oh, she
And
could
it
have
has stuff inside, which is cute. She can put it in that. But, you know, you want to, Samantha's going to show you hers, but this might be a little bit too small. It's almost enough.
I like mine. Mine says Paris. Paris is always a good idea. And what I love, and it's one of the magnetic boxes. And so I can put, you know, big sheets of paper in there and I date my, my stuff. But I chose Paris because when we were doing this, and Diana was my buddy, I'd never done this before working with Diana. And we both love Paris. And it just was this thing between us. And for me, it's like, it feels like home. It just feels like anything's possible in Paris. And so that's why, you know, for me, I didn't need to write anything down. It was just like, I know this could happen. I know this is here. You know, it just, so for me, that was enough. Say
Well,
Paris.
and for me, if any of you need a traveling companion to Paris, especially if you can afford to pay for me to go, I'm all in. But even if you can't, I'm also in. So
Okay, so wait, I'm seeing it now. We're gonna do a KISS podcast group tour of Paris. I've been
oh
there.
my
I've
gosh,
been there
yes,
so many times,
yes.
and know all, you know, the ins and outs of it.
All right, I'm feeling it. I'm
Gotta
feeling into
do
that.
that.
I'm going to put that in my box in a minute. But here's a, you know, a couple other ones that I found at
Look
this
at
one's
me
a big
writing it
one.
down.
Yeah, at Home Goods. They also have them at like Hobby Lobby or whatever.
Mhm.
I was gonna, and I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on finding some that are on Amazon or online that we can send you a link or that we can put a link up to. But use a shoe box, use any kind of box to make it. So this is what I do. And Samantha, you saw her papers, she folds it and puts the date on it. For me, I don't even go that far. I love colorful office supplies. And when I retired, that was the saddest part. My Flair pens I don't use every day. My colorful index cards I don't use every day. So I like to find excuses to be able to do that. But I get the colorful index cards at the Dollar Tree. And then like one of my dreams right now is to go on an Alaska cruise. So this is how simple it is for me. I write Alaska cruise and then I put it in whatever is in this box is. And now I know I'm on an Alaska cruise. I don't know how, I don't know when, I just know it's going to happen. And so when I get back to my land in my office at home for one of our podcasts, I'll go back to it and I'll show you guys what mine are. But basically what I do is I put the things in the box and then periodically I go back and kind of look through them. And as they are manifested, I take the card and I fold it in half. and I put it back in the box. So now I have a box full of the things I want to manifest and the things that I have already manifested.
I
So
like
it's kind
that.
of fun. It's a fun way to revisit it.
Yeah, I'm
And
switching
so,
to index cards. You know,
huh?
I'm switching to index cards. Oh, and
I
the other
love
thing, when
them.
you go back in there and you look at those, where your mindset is and what you want to do at one time, that shifts. So
Mhm.
those things that are no longer, like, allow yourself to change, to grow, to want different things. So you might find, well, I no longer want a house. Okay, so just a quick aside here. Um, Something to be aware of is that I had a mentor that taught us that it's really not the thing that you desire. It's the feeling of the having of the thing that you desire. And that's why so many people, they buy something and they suddenly feel, buyer's remorse about it,
Mhm.
because now you have all of the other responsibilities, or, like, they say in the camping world, everybody wants to drive a 10-foot camper, but they want to be inside of a 30-foot camper,
Right, because
you
it's so
know?
much harder to manage.
So, so what happens is when you get really good at this stuff, and you get into the feeling of what it is that you really desire, and you really live with that feeling. This is what I did when my mom and I were supposed to go to Africa. And, we were supposed to go, and then COVID happened. And I was really living that trip. And then when she said, Sam, we can't go, like, it was a last minute call, literally. In 2 weeks, we were supposed to go. And I was like, that's okay. And she's like, well, Sam, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm good. And she goes, well, you just don't know what you don't know. And I was just like, well, I'm really okay with it, because I felt fully satisfied because I'd been feeling those feelings. So, and then it did work out, and we did end up going 2 years later.
And why? Because everything's always working out for you.
Everything that was just not a good time to go. Right. But so here's the thing is that when you get really good at this stuff, this is what the gurus are good at. That's why they don't need possessions, because they get so into the feeling of having the thing that they no longer desire it. So be willing to go back into your box and pull out those things that you no longer desire.
Okay, and I have one other thing about the box.
Okay.
So whatever my daughters say, let's manifest blah blah, whatever it is. Um, I always say it because they each have a box. I say put it in the box, and then feel your way into it or whatever. But if you don't have the box, you can put it in a box in your brain. Like imagine the feeling, imagine the whatever, and then when you get to your box, write it down and put it in. So that's another educational thing. When you write something down, the motion of writing takes it to your brain and helps you remember it. And I believe for manifestation, it helps your reticular activating system tune into what are the things that are going to happen along the way to making that thing true.
Yeah.
But
That's
what you said about the feeling is so, so important. And many times we don't stop to feel,
mm-hmm.
or we try and deaden our feelings or what, and it's
We're afraid to feel, because that's hoping for something. And then you're like,
right.
it's not going to happen. I know this isn't going to happen, but just in case, I'm going to put it out there. I'd like to have that. That's called split energy,
Okay.
which I'll talk about at another time.
Yeah.
Because split energy is a super important one, that stops you in your tracks. Okay. So their activity is what?
Your activity is to make a manifestation box. And even if it's not the most beautiful thing, just find a box and start and think of 5 things that you would love to manifest and think about how you would feel if those things came to pass.
That sounds good. So
That's your
that is,
mission. Should you choose to accept it, it's making a manifestation box. And like I said, it can be simple. It could be a tissue box that the tissues are out of, and you
mhm,
could just tuck it into your tissue box. Or
whatever.
you can make a big project out of it and make this beautiful Valentine box like you had at school, whatever.
So what we would love for you to do is give it a try, integrate this over the weekend. And you know, you'll find the thread, the post inside the Facebook group for KISS Podcast and the links below. And please share with us, you know, a picture, like be sure to do it on the thread so that we can see everybody's creations. And let's see what you create. And again, if you have any suggestions, if you have any things that you did alternatively, like you just went outside, you know, colored outside the lines and came up with another idea, share that with us because we would love to know.
And
And
see, I'm always in the lines and Samantha's always outside the lines. So we will both appreciate it.
yes. And if you are watching this at a later date, please don't hesitate. Go, you know, follow through the activity. You will, you know, search for the thread that talks about this podcast, about creating the box, and go in and add it because other people are going to be watching at a later time. So they'll be doing this activity at a later time. And that'll just pop it, that thread, that post back up to the top of the Facebook page and remind everybody, you know, what a cool activity is. It might
Well,
remind
and down the
people to
line,
put stuff in, you know, like they'd forgotten.
I would love to hear some of the things that you put in the box and how it turned out. That'll be
Yeah. Yes, that would be especially fun. I like
yes,
that.
I'm excited about that.
Okay. And maybe, whoops, I just hit this, sorry. Maybe what we can do is if people send video like things about testimonials about how it went, like what occurred after they tried it and stuff, then maybe we can splice some of those into our videos so that
Oh,
you
that'd be
guys,
fun.
you know, if they're willing to do it, but only if somebody's willing to do it. So we would come to you and ask you. But anyway, I think that wraps it up for this segment of Weekend
Yeah.
Wanderlust.
Yes. So,
Fantastic. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
and we'll see you next time.